The 2022 Minnesota Vikings, a team who many, including me, had some mixed feelings and expectations about them this season. After they had a complete coaching rehaul, firing their GM and head coach, firing Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer because he did not care about anything other than the defense, which somehow still sucked. And also, Clint Kubiak was just the worst coordinator of all time. And then they also cut several players. Got guys like Michael Pierce, Everson Griffin. Brought in new guys like Jordan Hicks from the Cardinals, along with Zadarius Smith and Shannon Sullivan, both from the Packers. I thought was pretty funny, especially Zadarius Smith because he's actually really good. I honestly, before the season started, my expectations was they would win between 9 and 12 games. I thought we would see some success after this new coaching. With Kevin O'Connell at the helm, we were not going to go be as bad or worse than we were with Mike Zimmer, and we were not. But I also didn't think they'd win any more than 12 games, just because I didn't think that kind of change would yield this big of a result this quickly. I thought maybe a couple years down the line. I wasn't thinking a couple years down the line. I was just thinking maybe at best we'd go 12-5. Packers would still probably win the division, even though they had no weapons other than Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. And yeah, they sucked. They kind of sucked this year. Barely. Not even making the playoffs. Getting knocked out by the Lions out of everybody. And by the way, this is completely unscripted. I was gonna try to make a video fully scripted earlier in the season, like way earlier. I was gonna start this during Thanksgiving break, and then maybe continue it on a little bit during winter break, but I just never got around to it. And also, it turns out if I tried to make a scripted video with the amount of editing that was put into that, it might not have been uploaded until I went into college. And I'm a sophomore in high school, by the way, so that would have been years, and that's not an understatement. I did it very slow. So this is gonna be completely unscripted. Anyways, we'll get a little bit more into it, talk a little bit more about the off season and the season itself, and my hopes for the future in the new Just Stop podcast. Jesus save the purple. Alright, so starting the off season. As the Vikings changed a lot of stuff on their team, they changed their head coach, their GM. Quincy Mensa was in. We had Kevin O'Connell. We had some new guys on defense: Shannon Sullivan, Zadarius Smith, Jordan Hicks. We had basically the same offense though. We still have Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, and Alexander Madison. Then we also had Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne. The only difference was that we didn't have Tyler Conklin anymore, which I really liked him. I was sad that we gave him away. And our starting tight end was Irv Smith, who honestly I think he'd be a better guy working at like McDonald's than he is as an NFL player because he's the most inconsistent receiver ever, not named Laquan Treadwell. Then we also had Ben Ellefson and Johnny Munt, both as backup tight ends, which they were solid. I mean, you can't really expect much from no-name guys. They did well for what they had. And I was honestly thinking during the off season, this kind of change, I just felt like this had to be a special year for us. Even though I still had the idea that we were still in the competitive rebuild process of a new GM, new head coach, a lot of new stuff on the team. Like teams generally, they don't have these big changes and then go into a Super Bowl immediately. That's just not what happens. But I just had a weird feeling that something good was happening. Little did I know there something was. Yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, we go on to week 1. The Vikings play the Packers. My prediction for the game, we were gonna lose 31-24. You cannot think as a Vikings fan you're gonna go up against Aaron Rodgers, no matter what his weapons are, regardless of not knowing that during the season they lose 5 straight games, and you can't just think that we're gonna face Aaron Rodgers and we're gonna win. I knew the game had to be close, but I honestly didn't think I thought the Packers were gonna win and it was gonna be more than something like a field goal. So I thought, yeah, 31-24. That sounds pretty accurate. And then we get into the game. Justin Jefferson is putting on an absolute show, going on motion and a bunch of different routes all over the place, confusing the Packers defense all along and getting open every single play. bust out for, I think it was 9 catches for 184 yards or something like that, and 2 touchdowns, including one on a 4th down close to the goal line, which was sick. And immediately the Vikings go up to a 20-0 lead, something that Vikings fans have not experienced since, I don't know, 2019, and we went against the Falcons, we went up 28-0 against them. We blew them out. We just ran every single play. And also in 2017, when we faced the Buccaneers, we were up 28-3 at one point, which is weird to think about. Literally the season after that Super Bowl win by the Patriots. Gosh, I hated that Super Bowl. Then the Packers finally scored their first touchdown with A.J. Dillon doing everything for them. A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones just did everything. Aaron Rodgers didn't do anything. Obviously, you had Christian Dropson, which even though he's becoming a decent player, I will never stop calling him Christian Dropson, because his very first official play as an NFL player, not counting the preseason, was an open 75-yard touchdown that he dropped. And he was wide open. Patrick Peterson got burned the heck out of his coverage, and thankfully he dropped it. And then, the Vikings went on to go 23-7, beating the Packers in kind of a blowout win, which was very nice to start off the season with Kevin O'Connell at the helm. And after that, I was thinking, Ed Donatell and the defense, they're doing something right. Especially because at the time, we still thought that the Packers were still going to be a decent team. No one thought that the Packers were going to end up like 3-6 to start off the season. So I was thinking, we're going to go into Philadelphia, and if it would be the Packers, we'll be able to beat the Eagles. I was sadly mistaken. We start off down 14-0 because our defense couldn't do anything to stop Jalen Hurts and their read option offense the first drive of the game, and then we couldn't do anything on offense for so long until Irv Smith finally caught a touchdown pass. And also our defense, we were so just open, and Jalen Hurts picked us apart. Started off 11 for 11, 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. One was a rushing touchdown, one was a passing touchdown. The rushing touchdown was to open the game. The passing touchdown was the second touchdown, the 53-yard bomb to Quez Watkins, where he somehow got wide open. And the thing is, normally, if a quarterback starts off that efficient, 11 for 11, like Kirk Cousins when he started off, I think it was 17 or 18 for 18 against the Bears. Normally you don't throw for 154 yards, because a lot of the passes are very high percentage passes, not really past the first down sticks. The thing is, the Eagles, they could just run like 15-yard in routes every play, and they were going to complete a pass to someone every time. Whether you had A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, or Quez Watkins, which honestly at the time I thought he was just like a kind of just another guy they had. Turns out he's actually a star receiver now, which I'm not sure when he was drafted, but I don't think he's ever done that good until this year. And also Miles Sanders decides to randomly be an absolute stud this year, along with like Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott. And after that second game, I was like, oh my gosh. I was watching it just thinking, this is another type of Vikings game where the Vikings, they're good, but they're facing a team that's just better than them, and because that team is just a little bit better, the Vikings cannot beat them in any way, shape, or form. We start 24-7, down 7-24 is actually the correct way to say it, at halftime. And then our defense played well the second half. They didn't know another point, but our offense didn't score another point either. Kirk Cousins throwing like 3 interceptions to Darius Slay, which for some reason he decided to lock down Justin Jefferson, even though Jair Alexander couldn't. That was very painful to watch. 6 receptions for 48 yards, and for whatever reason, our tight ends decided to go off that game. I know Irv Smith, I'm pretty sure, led the team in like receiver receptions or yards or something like that. He had the best game, which is just weird because he shouldn't. And then going to the third game against the Lions. It could not really have started off any worse. Going down 14-0 against the Lions, then picking us apart with DJ Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, all their random guys who are, for some reason, stars when they play against the Vikings. Starting out down 14-0. And then, of course, the Vikings, because this season is really weird. I'm going to get into this later. They come back down 14, come back to make it 14-14 by the end of the half. And start of the second half, again we go down 24-14, and then it's looking like the Lions are really building up some momentum. Then eventually, Alexander Madison. Gosh, I mixed him up with Mackenzie Alexander. Alexander Madison scores a rushing touchdown to make it 24-14, 24-21. Holy smokes, I'm stupid right now. And then after that, the Vikings get some really clutch stops, but also I'm just remembering there were like 3 or 4 missed field goals that day. Greg Joseph and the Lions kicker, I'm not sure what his name is, and I don't care, missed their first field goals to start off the game. Greg Joseph just couldn't make anything that day for whatever reason. That was really annoying to watch. And then against the Lions, the big play finally came late in the game. We stopped him on 4th down. It was like 4th and 1. And honestly, you have to be thinking, if you're a Vikings fan, the Lions have been picking us apart. Jared Goff is picking us apart all day, and they're just running right up our throats all game long. They run to the right. Danielle Hunter gets instant penetration and stops Jamal Williams for not a loss, just no gain, and it stops him on 4th down. And then the last drive, the Vikings' last offensive drive of the game, 2 big plays by. First of all, a big play by what's his face? Blanking on his name. A big play by KJ Osborne. Gosh, I'm an idiot. Wow. A big play by him, which seemed kind of like underthrown, but also when I was watching it, it looked like he was going like right to Adam Thielen, and then KJ Osborne came up with the catch, and then they quickly hurried down the field, and then it was right after that the Lions decided it would be a good idea to call a timeout when they were beating the Vikings with like a minute left, just to give the Vikings more time to get something on them. And then the next play, I'm pretty sure it was Mike Hughes who blew the coverage on KJ Osborne. He's wide open on a corner right in the end zone, scores a touchdown. It's 28-14. But I'm thinking, yeah, I remember this. Last year, the Lions were 0-10-1. We went up 27-23 on them. And then Jared Goff decided to just pick us apart all the way down the field and eventually score a touchdown to win the game. And I was thinking, like, I'm excited, but I can't get too excited yet. And then you see them; they make a couple of big plays to get to get down the field, and then Jared Goff throws that pass a little bit overthrown to I think it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Josh Metellus just drops an easy interception that would have ended the game right there. And then I think it was like the following 2 plays, Jared Goff tries to escape the pressure. He's under a lot of pressure by Zadarius Smith, which is exactly what we wanted that late in the game. He throws down the field and is picked off by Josh Metellus. I had to post a video about it because I used to actually post videos. I don't know if you noticed that. And then Josh Metellus comes up with a big interception to end the game. The Vikings kneel it away. We start off 2-1 to start the season, and I realized this is the first. Finally, Justin Jefferson starts off the season above 500. He had never been 500 at this point in his career because the last 2 seasons in 2020 we started off 0-4, finished the season 7-9, and then in 2021 we started off. It was like we started off like 1-2. The best we did was like getting to 500 by beating the Panthers right before the bye week, and we were 6-6. But we still ended off 8-9, which. The scary thing was against the Bears that game, the last game of the year in 2021. If we lost, we would have had the same record as them because the Bears were 6-10, the Vikings were 7-9. So it could have been 7-10 to 7-10, but instead we beat the Bears, and yeah, that was a good one. Justin Jefferson is still above 500 for his career after this, and then comes the next game, which was against the Saints. And that game should never have been this close. We're facing a team that has their 2 starting quarterbacks are Andy Dalton and Taysom Hill, who's a tight end too, and a running back and a wide receiver and a special teams guy. He does everything. I'm surprised he hasn't snapped the ball yet. And the first drive is great. We start off, we get a touchdown. It's like a 3rd and 15. in the red zone, but then we throw the screen pass to Alexander Madison and go for the touchdown. During this time, I was actually watching at my friend's house. I was going to Dairy's to pick up some donuts. They didn't have any Vikings donuts, sadly, so I just saw on my phone that we were up 7-0. I head back home, head back to his house, and then we decided to just kick like three straight. I think it was like 3 or 4 straight field goals. It's 16-7 at some point. I don't remember, and whatever. And then we suddenly cannot stop the Saints offense, partially because Taysom Hill, every time he hit the ball, it's like the Vikings had a thought maybe 50% chance to throw the ball. He never threw the ball. He took a direct snap as a quarterback like 3 times, and he ran every play. I think 2 of them were for touchdowns. And eventually we go down. It was like 16-7 at one point. I think it was like 19-14, which is just such a weird score. 1 touchdown, 4 field goals versus 2 touchdowns. The better offense, the Vikings only kicked field goals for some reason. And also, I'm remembering now, like towards the end of the half, Johnny Munt or Ben Ellefson dropped an easy catch. It would have been a first down. It was after an interception too, and we had to kick field goal. I think it was like that. That was what made it like 16-7. We made it to the red zone. It was like a 3rd and 5. Johnny Munt dropped a wide open pass to get a first down, and we had to settle for a field goal off of an interception. Whenever you get a turnover like that, you got to finish off with a touchdown, or you just look bad, like the Vikings always do for some reason. And then let's see, it was like 19-14. The Saints score touchdown. It's 22-19. The Vikings score touchdown is 25-22, and then we missed a field goal because Greg Joseph likes to miss the PATs for some reason. And it's just a 3-point game. Saints were able to kick a field goal and tie the game till the Vikings kick their own field goal, make it 20-25. Which, if you told someone the score is 20-25, but there were 5 field goals, I honestly wonder what the reaction would be on their face. Because that's only 2 touchdowns. One of them had a missed PATs, so that's 13 points, and then 4 field goals, 12 points, 25 points. Wait. No, 5 field goals, 28 points. And then the 61-yard field goal by Will Lutz, which I'm remembering, was set up, first of all, by Drake London Chris Olave getting wide open down the field when the Vikings had to be in shell coverage. Andy Dalton throws a perfect pass right to Chris Olave to put him across the 50-yard line. And then the next play, like one of the next plays, Andy Dalton throws toward the sideline, and Chris Olave suddenly comes near the sideline, almost getting them even better field position. And then the 61-yard field goal by Will Lutz, a double doink, which was very nice to see. And then the Vikings move on to 4-1 at this point. And then at this point in the season, the standings were literally 4-1, 3-2, 2-3, and 1-4. The Vikings were 4-1. The Packers were 3-2 for some reason. I don't know. The Bears were 2-3, even though they're really a favorite to go 0-17 this year. And then the Lions were 1-4 because the Lions had like the best offense in the league, but also the worst defense. Through the first 4 games, I think they lost to the Eagles week 1, 30-35. They beat the Redskins in week 2 with like 26-17 or something like that. And then week 3, the Vikings lose 20-24. And week 4, it was week 4. They lost to the Seahawks 48-45. So all their losses were in high-scoring games, where they scored a lot of points. They just couldn't stop the other team from scoring a lot. The only game they won was the Redskins. I don't remember what their 5th game was, but it was another loss, and that's all that matters. Alright, then we move on to week 5 when the Vikings face the Bears. And there's another game. It started off so good. It probably couldn't have started off any better, going off 21-3 against the Bears, which, I mean, not a high bar to pass. I mean, they only have Justin Fields, David Montgomery, Cole Kmet, and then, like, Darnell Mooney. Who else do they have? They have Velus Jones. Can't even think of all the guys I have because they're all so trash. But yeah, we start off 21-3, which is kind of expected. And couldn't start off like 18 for 18 this game. Really couldn't have started off any better. Till the Bears decided to make a 19-point comeback. They score towards the end of the half, and it's 21-10. And then let's see, it was can't quite remember how it went, but yeah, they came back more, and eventually it went like 20. It was 22-21 at one point, because they like scored and went for two, I think, and then they yeah, it was 22-21. You can tell this is unscripted because I cannot think of words to say, and then the Vikings finally they score a touchdown late in the game, and it was 27-22 after the Justin Jefferson scored a touchdown on a jet sweep. Then we go for two to make it a 7-point game, and we do. It's 29-22. And then again, the Bears look like they're starting to drive down the field like the Vikings always let the other team do. Until finally the Bears Justin Fields completes a pass to Amir Smith-Marset. Yeah, that's another guy they have from the Vikings. Meanwhile, we took I think Jonathan Bullard and what's his face, Duke Shelley from the Bears. So they have Amir Smith-Marset. They complete a pass to him. Justin Jefferson completes a pass to Amir Smith-Marset. He's running by the sideline. Well, first he just burns Cameron Dantzler. He stiff arms him down, and he continues running. And then 3 seconds later, Cameron Dantzler is back up again. Just takes the ball completely away from Amir Smith-Marset, runs on the field, slides down, and we win the game. Which it shouldn't have been that close anyway, but it's very hard to win the game in the National Football League. Any team can beat any team at any given time. That's what Purple for the Win says. And yeah, we start off. It was a 4-1, 5-1. Oh yeah, it was after the Saints game we were 3-1. Then Chicago we were 4-1, and it was just a lot closer than it should have been. But at least we won the game. Again, I also posted that video. I didn't post it like as it was happening, but I showed the replay. And then the next game is against the Dolphins, which this game just was super slow to start off. It was like 7-3 sometime in the second quarter, like very very slow game, and also because we were facing, it wasn't even Tua Tagovailoa, it was like Teddy Bridgewater was playing that game. Couldn't get anything going, and then eventually, I can't even remember what it was, but try to find it here. Give me some time. Oh yeah, the Dolphins. I forgot the Dolphins scored so much on the Vikings. They had 458 total yards to 234 total yards. It was bad. They had 385 passing yards, and that's between Teddy Bridgewater, who had 329, and Skylar Thompson, who had 89 passing yards. Kirk Cousins 20 for 30 for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then, yeah, let's see. It was scoreless in the first and third quarters. It was 10-3 after the second quarter, and then eventually the Vikings win the game. It was 24-16, and it was just another game. The Vikings kind of have to have an asterisk for a game that we won, when it was one by one possession, because the Vikings, it was 17-10 late in the fourth quarter, and then Dalvin Cook breaks off that touchdown it was like a 75-yard touchdown and made it 24-10, and then the Dolphins, or it was like 17-9. The Dolphins went down the field, scored a touchdown. So, and then they scored a touchdown, and then it became an 8-point game, which is already barely one possession game. They were down before that, so you kind of have to have an asterisk that it was a 1-point win, a 1-possession win. But whatever. Yeah. Then we head into the bye week. The next game is against the Cardinals, another 8-point game, where I actually don't remember this game much, but I do know in several. Justin Jefferson made a few really good catches. Then also there was DeAndre Hopkins had the one-handed catch against Harrison Smith in the red zone. And gosh, this was a game where the Vikings had just 208 passing yards, 173 rushing yards, because Dalvin Cook went for 20 for 111, Alexander Madison 5 for 40 yards. And then Kirk Cousins actually, I remember Kirk Cousins scored a touchdown on a scramble, which was so sick. Rondale Moore, 7 receptions for 92 yards and 1 touchdown. That 1 touchdown, he had to break like 3 tackles to get there, which is just stupid. So yeah, we started off 7-3 in the first quarter. It was 14-10 going into the second half, and then yeah, not much to say there. To be honest, that game didn't do much, but I know the Vikings, they went up by like 2 possessions. In the game, it was I can't remember what it was, but I know that Greg Joseph missed a field goal here, which would have made it a 2 possession game, but he missed. Then we go into the Redskins game again. This is the first game we had T.J. Hawkinson. I forgot about mentioning this, and that trade was really nice on the deadline. That was like, I don't know if it's always like if it's like this every year, but it was. I'm pretty sure it was like one of the most active trade deadlines in like 15 years, because there were so many different trades happening. The Vikings traded for T.J. Hawkinson. The Bears traded for Chase Claypool, and then also Calvin Ridley signed with the Jaguars, I think. Still suspended, but he signed with them. And then yeah, I'm kind of tired. The Vikings start off 7-0, which is a nice touchdown catch by Justin Jefferson in the back of the end zone against St. Juice, which got away with like several holding calls. It should have definitely been called, but whatever. And then the Redskins decide to go on a scoring spree. One of the touchdowns was completely undeserved because the ref ran right into Cam Beasley, who would have had an easy interception. But then for some reason we saw double coverage on, it was Curtis Samuel. For how do teams randomly have just such big guts to throw such risky plays against the Vikings? Like, okay, it's already annoying that they completed it, but it's annoying the fact that Taylor Heineke had the balls to throw it into triple coverage to Curtis Samuel, who was covered by, I know it was like Harrison Smith, Cam Beasley for a little bit, and then I don't know who else. But Cam Beasley got knocked down, but we saw like double coverage on him, and he still caught it untouched and just rolled into the end zone for a score. And I think that made it that made it 17-7, and it just stayed that way for so much of the game until the fourth quarter, when the Vikings finally came back. They scored. Oh yeah, it was 17-7 going. It was 10-7 after the third quarter. It was 17-7 in the fourth, and then the Vikings scored a field goal that made it 17-10, and then Harrison Smith gets an interception, runs way down the field, super slow, which was kind of funny to watch. He's so old, so slow. Makes down the field, and that was the bowling pin celebration. And the Vikings scored the touchdown. It was a one-handed catch by Dalvin Cook in the end zone to tie the game at 17-7. And then the Vikings scored again with I know the Vikings made like some big stops there. Which the Vikings defense is horrible until it has to be good, and then it's sometimes really good. Against the Lions, the best offense in the league at the time. And then the Vikings, Greg Joseph kicks a field goal to take the lead 20-17 with like 13 seconds left in the game. But I was still nervous because I thought the Vikings were the one team that will blow this lead somehow. But luckily they didn't, and we went on to win that game. Then the next game was against the Bills. This game was like the most anticipated game of the season. Like a likely Super Bowl preview with the Vikings and the Bills. The second best team in the NFC at the time, and possibly the best team in the AFC at the time. Or maybe not. I know the Bills were like the third seed in the AFC East after this game. Yeah, it was the 8-1 Vikings against the 7 the I think it was no the 7-1, or what was it? 1 2 the 7-1 Vikings versus the 6-2 Bills. Game actually started out very nicely. The Vikings got a stop on the Bills' first possession, then went down the field and scored a touchdown, making it 7-0. Then the Bills go on to score 17 unanswered points. It's 17-7. And then at one point, I think it was, I can't remember when it was. I was listening to the game coming home from a cross country with my parents, and Cam Beasley gets Cameron Bynum gets a fumble off of Devin Singletary. the Vikings got the ball back, and I think we went on the field, kicked a field goal, 17-7, 17-10, and then the Bills scored another touchdown to make it 24-10 going into the second half, and there was 17, and then the Bills later on in the third quarter kicked a field goal, making it 27-10, and it was right here. I was napping for a while, then I woke up and I heard Allen Cook toss to the left, made it up the field, beat a defender, and it was just gone. Scored a touchdown, and I heard it was 27-16. And me last thinking, gosh, we're down by this much. This is gonna be bad. I just felt sad that I took a nap while we allowed a huge lead to the Bills. And again, just another time the Vikings face a better team than them, and they just lose until the Bills, they march on the field. Once on a 3rd and 15, Josh Allen throws it to Stephon Diggs, makes a great one-handed catch, which again I was listening to it, so I just heard that he made a good one-handed catch when I watched it on the replay, and also Justin Jefferson one-handed catch. First of all, appeal them comparison to Justin Jefferson's. Yeah, they're making down the field, and then on like 4th and 2, the Bills are greedy, so they want a touchdown. Josh Allen rolls out to the right and throws an interception right to Cameron Dantzler. Patrick Peterson in the end zone, and then Patrick Peterson gets the interception. He's running back out, and I saw he actually made a really good veteran play. He was on Isaiah McKenzie that play, and he just slowly pushed him out of bounds, so he didn't get like a penalty or anything. He pushes Isaiah McKenzie out of bounds, so automatically then Isaiah McKenzie couldn't catch the ball just on his own. The ball had to touch the defender's hands before Isaiah McKenzie, so he helps another guy who's running across. Josh Allen tries to throw with that. He goes up with one hand, catches the ball, makes it out of the end zone. Then we go down the field. C.J. Ham scores a rush touchdown for the first time in 5 years, and the Vikings go up 20. The Vikings send 27-23, and then Greg Joseph, because he likes to be Greg Joseph, misses the PAT, and it's a 4-point game instead of a 3-point game. And then it was, I think it was this time when we made the big stop against them. It was 27-23. They had 3rd down, and then Harrison Smith broke up a long pass to Stephon Diggs on the sideline, get the ball back, and then it was here when just before the 2-minute warning, I think like Von Miller sacked Kirk Cousins on the 3rd and 10 to make it 4th and 18, and then the famous call, "What, we welcome you to Orchard Park." Vikings on 4th and 18 against the Bills, and then Kirk Cousins steps back in the pocket, and on the broadcast they circled Von Miller because he was just the biggest threat. They had to watch him to get to the quarterback because he was whatever. And then he threw it down the field to Justin Jefferson, who was actually pretty open on a corner route. Goes up with one hand on Cam Lewis, who had 2 hands on the ball. It annoys me so much when people say, if Cam Lewis wasn't there, he wouldn't have caught the ball. Cam Lewis made it harder for him to catch the ball. I know I'm ranting to an iPhone camera right now, but Cam Lewis made it easier, actually made it harder for him to catch it, because Justin Jefferson, he had 1 hand on it. Cam Lewis had 2 hands on it, all the way almost to the ground. That's why Justin Jefferson had to barely keep it above the ground on his side and still caught the ball. If he wasn't there, I guarantee you it would have looked more like the Stephon Diggs one-handed catch. He just went up for 1 hand, brought it down. Would have been much easier for him. But still, the greatest catch of all time. There's no question about it. George Pickens and Odell Beckham Jr. are close seconds, but no doubt about it, Justin Jefferson had the best catch. And then again, I think it was after that, either Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen had a catch which gave the Vikings another first down. And I just remembered. I just remembered. It was the drive before this. I'm remembering now. Before the C.J. Ham touchdown, when the Vikings had a 4th and inches or a 4th and 1, where KJ Osborne had the jet sweep, barely got a first down. Which honestly, when I look back on it, I don't know if he got a first down. It was so close, but they get him forward progress into a first down. And then T.J. Hawkinson on a 4th and 6 catches the ball on sort of like a hitch route from Kirk Cousins. And then he gains like 6 more yards, and eventually that led to the C.J. Ham touchdown. And then we have the Vikings' next drive, and making it on the field, the Justin Jefferson catch, and then Adam Thielen makes a catch to put the Vikings in another first down. And then it was here Justin Jefferson, he threw it him Kirk Cousins threw it to Justin Jefferson. It was incomplete, but he was called for it was defensive pass interference on the Bills, which put them even in a better field position. And he made all the way down the field to the goal line. And it was this Kirk Cousins threw a pass on like third and goal to Justin Jefferson. He caught the ball, but he was down at the 1 yard line. And it was here the Vikings first did like a play action pass. And Kirk Cousins actually had Dalvin Cook very open, and which would have been an easy touchdown if Dalvin Cook didn't decide to just drop the pass. Which, just watching back, it annoys me so much that he dropped that pass. He was so open. Would have been an easy touchdown. But then the Bills were called for offsides, and then we had another chance at it. And then with a yard, like an inch to go, Kirk Cousins tries to sneak it, and somehow he can't get it. If Jalen Hurts was there, he had 3 yards to go, he would have busted right through. That sounds so wrong, but you compare Kirk Cousins and his sneaking, which is so hit or miss. It's basically all he does. He just holds the ball and just leans over. And of course, that doesn't work. You can't just do that and get a first down. Meanwhile, Jalen Hurts can't just get through anything on a QB sneak. And then the Bills have us on 4th down somehow, and then they have it on their own 1 yard line. And I wish I could play the audio, but I'm not going to. I don't want to edit this that much. Josh Allen has the ball in his basically on his own 1 yard line. I also posted a video about this. Sadly, for some reason this was the only video I actually posted during that game. I filmed myself for a lot of it, but somehow I missed like the Justin Jefferson catch. I missed the final drive. I only caught this. Josh Allen, I heard Paul Allen on the radio. It's like he puts Gabe Davis in motion. Takes a snap. He didn't get out of there. It's a safety. And then Josh Allen's on the ground because somehow he fumbled the snap. And then of course the refs just did not want to give the Vikings any good calls that game, which of course the Gabriel Davis one also later. And they didn't give any call, and eventually he's like, "No, it's a touchdown! The Vikings are gonna win the game!" Because Eric Kendricks, I cannot speak. Eric Kendricks covered the ball in the end zone to make it 27-23. No, 30-23 after Greg Joseph actually made a PAT. Surprising. And then the Bills, of course, now that they have to make it down the field, they make down the field easily. Well, I mean, air quotes, easily. Partially because, one, they threw it to Josh Allen, threw it to Gabe Davis. Easily should have been called incomplete. He had the ball, but as he was falling to the ground, he lost it and it bounced off the ground. And of course, they don't review, even though in the last 2 minutes, you have to review plays that are on the fence or that clearly incomplete. But they didn't because they knew it was going to be incomplete if they reviewed it. So they let the Bills get away with another play through Isaiah McKenzie got out of bounds. And eventually, with like 5 seconds left, they kick a field goal. And then it goes into overtime, and it was here. The Vikings were making it down the field. It was looking really good until we got to the 1 yard line. And then here, the Bills had 12 men on the field. And because the refs did not want to do anything in the Vikings' favor other than a couple of the defensive pass interference calls on the Bills, the Vikings run a play. Dalvin Cook gets stuffed on the goal line because it turns out when the defense has an extra man on the offense, it's pretty easy to make a stop. And then they get stopped. The Vikings kick a field goal and it's 33-30. And then the Bills are making their way down the field. And then the Bills are making their way down the field. Josh Allen, of course, every time he scrambles a couple times, gains 30 yards every time because he's 6'5", 240, and every time he'd hit Kyrus Tonga, like Harrison Phillips, and he was still driving them down the field. He ran to Eric Kendricks, drove him down the field, and then eventually at like the 24-yard line, Allen steps back in the pocket, steps up, throws right to Patrick Peterson, and is picked off. Patrick Peterson runs out of the end zone, and the Vikings win the game. And then, first of all, the guy on the call was amazing announcer. If I wish I was watching the game. Who is such a good announcer. Like on the Justin Jefferson catch, the 4th and 18, is here. So it's down the field. He wants Jefferson, climbs the ladder. Oh, he caught it! And I know I'm doing a terrible impression right now. I'm kind of embarrassing. Anyway, I'll move on. The next game, we're not even going to talk about it. The Dallas 40-3. Vikings had no offense that game except for that one drive, which could have been an easy touchdown if T.J. Hawkins just knew how to catch. And then we just couldn't stop them the rest of the game. They went down 40-3. And then the Thanksgiving game, the Patriots. This was just looking really off balance all game long because the Vikings couldn't stop the Patriots with Mac Jones, Nelson Aguilar, and Devontae Parker all game long, and Ramondre Stevenson too. It seemed like for some reason every single play Mac Jones stepped up back in the pocket. He'd step back like 10 yards because the Vikings for some reason Zarius Smith and Neil Hunter never went outside. He always had 12 seconds in the pocket, and then he would just pick the Vikings apart, which was another time when they had like a 4th and 16 late in the game, and I think at this time it was 33-26. Jacoby Myers was actually pretty open on 4th and 16, and it was just a little bit overthrown, and he dropped it, and the first half went by was pretty slow, especially the Vikings went up 16-10 on them, 16-10 because Greg just decided to miss a PAT. Then it's 16-16 going into the half. Of course, the Patriots score on their first drive after the half, but then Kene Nwangwu gets a kickoff return for a touchdown and to tie the game again. And the third time in his career, of course, twice last season, just like Patrick Peterson, Cordero Patterson. I'm an idiot. It's 23-23, and it was at that point where the Vikings really started to build a momentum, eventually winning the game 33-26. A great way to end off Thanksgiving. And then the Jets game, we had 4 straight games. The Bills, the Cowboys, the Patriots, and the Jets. We had to face all like top 10 defenses. Let's skip the Cowboys game because that's not a different part of it. We get the Bills, the Patriots, and the Jets, all top 5 defenses, and we scored 27 points on every single one of them, which was a great look. So we're facing the Jets. The first half was great. We start off 20-6 in the first half, and then we let Mike White come back, and then 27-22, and then trying to remember stuff in the game. I don't remember much, but I know they had like the 4th and 10, the final play of the game, and immediately every Vikings fan had to think, yeah, this is where we're gonna lose. Obviously, we're gonna lose. That we have Daniil Hunter and Zadarius Smith line up on the same side trying to get pressure, which we didn't get. I don't remember how many sacks we got, but I don't think it was that good. And then Mike White throws it down the field, and then it's Cameron Bynum who got the interception to win the game. Trying to find here. Oh, dang it. Gosh, I'm just seeing now. The Jets had so many guys catching the ball. Garrett Wilson went off 8 receptions for 162 yards. Corey Davis, 5 receptions for 85 yards. Tyler Johnson, 6 receptions for 38 yards. C.J. Uzoma, 1 reception for 31 yards. I don't remember what that was. What was that? Zach Knight. He went off for 5 for 28. Tyler Conklin got 2 catches for 9 yards off of 7 targets. He only caught 2 for 7. Braxton Berrios 2 for 9. Elijah Moore 2 for 7. And then Denzel Mims had 1 target, but he didn't catch it. Then Justin Jefferson, 7 receptions for 45 yards, a really weird stat line, and 1 touchdown. Then Jalen Reagor, 1 reception for 38 yards. T.J. Hawkinson, 4 for 33. Adam Thielen, 2 for 27. KJ Osborne, 2 for 17. And Johnny Munt, 1 for 12. And my brother pointed out this is the type of stat line of like the receivers who we should have catching the ball. Justin Jefferson getting a lot of catches. T.J. Hawkinson, Adam Thielen, and KJ Osborne both getting some. And then we let the no-name guys like Johnny Munt and Jalen Reagor not really catching. I mean, Jalen Reagor is good at times, but He pretty inconsistent too. Another and again it was another 1 point win by the Vikings, 1 possession win by the Vikings. And then we faced the Detroit Lions. This game started off as bad as the first game and continued as bad as the first game. I don't even care to mention much of it, but now looking at the stats, I don't remember this much. But the Lions had 330 passing yards, 134 rushing yards, and 464 total yards. The Vikings had 416 total yards, 394 passing yards, which is 22 rushing yards. It was just so bad. And I'm pretty sure it was basically also the same against the Jets. We couldn't run the ball against them either. Jared Goff went off for 27 for 39 for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins actually went 31 for 41 for 425 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had a great game. And so yeah, Dalvin Cook 15 carries for 23 yards. 15 carries for 23 yards. That's a yard and a half per carry. His longest run was 5 yards, as opposed to the Lions, who also didn't run very well against us. They had Jamal Williams, who had 16 carries for 37 yards. Their longest run, other than I don't know what this guy's name is, Seymour. The longest run was by Jay Jackson, 15 yards. And then DeAndre Swift had six carries for 21 yards. His longest carry was 9 yards. And for Jamal Williams, 16 for 37, and he had 8 yards, his longest. And then Jared Goff, 2 for 9 and his longest was 8 yards. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown had 1 carry for 6 yards. And I remember during this game, we were down by a lot late in the game. It was like 30. I think it was 31-16, and it was just looking like the Vikings were just gonna lose. We were down by so much until we scored it. We scored a 1 touchdown. It was 31-23, looking like, hey, this was actually a winnable game. And I'm just remembering this. The refs made a horrible call that seriously changed the game for the Vikings. That really took them out of the chance to win. It was 31-15, 31-16, I think, or 31-15. And this was the play. The Vikings, Kirk Cousins had the pass to Justin Jefferson. He's running down the field. He broke 2 tackles. He got close to the sideline, but he was watching the replay. He was clearly in. And the rest decided to call the play dead right there because it looked like he was out of bounds. The thing is, if it's that close, you let it go out because he scored a touchdown there. Instead, when you call play dead, you can't reverse it, and then you can't reverse it and like let the play run out because after the play's dead, it's dead. There's nothing else that happens. Which is why you let the play run out, which he was clearly not out of bounds. But even if he wasn't, you let the play run. He scores a touchdown, you review it. It was out of bounds. You cut it dead there. Instead, they call it dead where he was clearly in bounds. I'm putting my hand on the desk as if you can see it. And he could have scored a touchdown, but they decided to not give it to us. But this game, Justin Jefferson did go off for a lot. 11 receptions for 223 yards. C.J. Hockenson had 6 receptions for 77 yards. Adam Thielen, 7 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown. KJ Osborne, 5 receptions for 38 yards and a touchdown, which is like, this is a really nice stat line. Justin Jefferson getting the bulk of the targets. And then T.J. Hockenson, Adam Thielen, and KJ Osborne also getting some good targets and yards. Dalvin Cook had 1 reception for 13 yards and C.J. Ham 1 for 9. And then DJ Chark went off for 94 yards, and he had that one long reception on the streak against Cameron Dantzler. With that, put him ahead. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 receptions for 68 yards. Josh Reynolds, 5 for 51. Jamal Williams had 1 reception for 41. No, Jameson Williams had 1 reception for 41 yards and a touchdown. And I remember, and I remember this because it was a play. It was like a bomb, and he just got kind of open. He broke a tackle and went into the end zone. Excuse me. Anyways, when it was 31-23, the Lions kicked a field goal to make it 34-23, and that actually kind of was nice for the Vikings. So that meant that we didn't lose in a 1-score game. And then after this, we go into Indianapolis. and you could not have started off a half worse than this. We're facing the Colts, who were 4-8-1 at the time. We're 10-3. We start off 33-0 in the first half. Colts make down the field. They score a touchdown and a field goal, and the Alvin Cook hit the long run, and then the next play he fumbled it, and then later on you had the blocked punt that was for a touchdown. I think that put up like 20-0, and then also there was also the pick six that Kirk Cousins threw to Jalen Reagor, and I don't remember if this was the time when he was out. No, it wasn't. He threw it to when Justin Jefferson was out. When he threw it to to Jalen Reagor, he kind of like stopped on the route, and then the Colts made the interception. He ran it for a touchdown. I think that put it up 30-0. And then you see the famous meme of Kirk Cousins on the sideline just drinking his Gatorade like this, while it was 30-0. Then we go down 33-0, and then, gosh, I wish I could show the video. I say I wish because I'm not going to show the video, but you can watch it yourself, of the Vikings win probability in the second half throughout the game, as every touchdown we scored starts off at 0.6%. The Colts had a 99.4% chance of winning the game, and they blew it off a 33-point comeback. We started off the Colts first quarter was 17-0. Second quarter they scored 16 points and it was 33-0. The Vikings scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. It started off with a long pass to KJ Osborne, which he also did an out route against Stephon Gilmore for the touchdown. It was 33-7. And then the only other score the Colts had the game, they scored a field goal and it was 36-7. And then I think C.J. Ham caught a ran for a touchdown and made it 36 to 14. I remember my dad telling like, "Oh yeah, and if we just continue with this streak, we're still gonna lose 36-20." And I'm like, "Dad, just settle down, just let the game play out." And then Justin Jefferson routed up Stephon Gilmore. He did like an out route, kind of faked to the inside and continued out. He was wide open for the catch, went for the touchdown. It was 36-21. And right after this, it's looking like a game. I'm just remembering to mention, this is at the half when I tried to scroll my phone for some reason. It was at the half. Patrick Peterson went up to Kirk Cousins and just goes, "Hey, the defense is gonna get some stops. We just need 5 touchdowns. That's nothing." Like, so facetious. And also when one of my brothers, when it was at the halftime, I realized at that point I wasn't wearing my famous Vikings gear, which is like either my onesie or this sweatshirt, and also my Adrian Peterson jersey and this hat. I put that on. The Vikings went off. I mean, I don't know if there's any connection there. Yeah, and my brother was like, there could be a comeback, and I was like, shut up, there's not gonna be one. And there was. And so it was 36-21, and then you had the Adam Thielen touchdown that made it 36-27. We kicked the field goal there, which I thought we should have gone for 2 there to make it a 7-point game and make it 36-29, but whatever. It was 36-28, and I remember it was sometime around here. I think it was actually 36-21 when Kirk Cousins while Justin Jefferson was out because teams just love to target him for no good reason other than the fact that they know they're terrified of him. The Jets hit him. The Jets hit Justin Jefferson several times. I think the Bills did it too. The Colts did it. Stephon Gilmore. Gosh, Justin Jefferson made the catch. He was in the air. And the Stephon Gilmore, you could see it lunging upward right at his helmet. Justin Jefferson falls back, and he still catches it because he's just the best receiver in the NFL. And then I think it was that play where he got injured and he had to get taken out. And then Jalen Reagor went in to replace him. And we saw how he cannot replace Justin Jefferson like that. Like he was running down the field, and Kirk Cousins threw the ball to him. And he just kind of quit on the route, and then the Colts had an easy interception. And I can't remember if it was this game or another one where also Kirk Cousins threw it deep, and Jalen Eric was the only one down there. I think he was also in double coverage. He actually went back to the ball and caught it, but I don't remember if that was that game, so I'm not gonna make it like a part of it. It was 36-21. The Thielen touchdown makes it 31-20, 36-28. I think it was here. The Colts could have like put the game away. Basically, it was only like about 2 minutes left, and they had like fourth and actual like an inch, like the same distance the Vikings had against the Bills when Kirk Cousins tried to sneak it. Instead, it's Matt Ryan. He takes a snap. Somehow the Vikings just form a stone wall, and Matt Ryan's trying to push his way. Eventually, he falls to the right, and when he falls down, he did cross the line, but they called the play dead earlier, and then they had to review it. But then I was like, they're not gonna overturn this. They've already placed the ball where it was. Trying to review isn't going to change anything, and it didn't. The Vikings got the ball back, and this was where my brother actually filmed me the screen pass to Dalvin Cook, where he broke tackle, found some blocks, was running down the field, and out of nowhere, Ezra Cleveland is in front of him. The offensive lineman, Ezra Cleveland, is in front of him blocking, and then he just falls into the end zone to make it 36-34. I was going nuts already that it was actually about to get tied, and then Kirk Cousins throws the ball to T.J. Hawkinson in the end zone to score the 2-point conversion and make it 36-36. And I was just so excited that we actually tied the game after getting down 33-30, 33-0. That's the Bills game. Then in overtime, I think it was in overtime. I think the Vikings had the ball. They couldn't do anything. The Bills got the ball, and the Colts got the ball, and we got a stop on them. And then the Vikings had the ball again. They're slowly making it down the field until there's like a pass to KJ Osborne. They got a first down. There's a pass to Adam Thielen. They got a first down, and then to Justin Jefferson to put him in better field goal range on a screen pass. He gained like 8 yards to set him up, and then it was there. The Colts defender was actually holding him down, trying to run out the clock, but then he got called for a delay of game. But I think I was like, you can get away with that if you do it kind of implicitly. You just hold him down kind of casually. But he was holding him down as like tight as he could. Justin Jefferson was trying to get up. He was showing that he couldn't. The ref called the delay of game on him, and then with like 4 seconds left, Greg Joseph from like 46 yards, I think it was. I was getting really nervous because I thought, if it's more than a 17-yard field goal, 18-yard field goal, which I think is the shortest field goal you can possibly kick now, I had a bad feeling he was somehow going to miss it. And then he makes it, and I was just going crazy. And right after that, all my family started FaceTiming, talking about the game. Even my brother was like, this is the happiest day of my life. Because the Vikings came back down 33-0. What the heck? Gosh, my browser isn't loading. Come on. Gosh, my computer's going slow. And then the next game was against the Giants, which I'm surprised we didn't have such a bad hangover. The emotional hangover. We went on to win that game 27-24. And because I was at work that day, but it was also on Christmas Eve, we were so slow that day. I was working at Chick-fil-A. We were so slow that day. Periodically I would go back to check my phone, see what the score was. And early on, the Vikings were actually down, which got scary. And I didn't realize that Patrick Peterson was getting burnt by Isaiah Hodgins out of everyone. Never mind. It was 17-10 going into after the half, and the Giants, I think, had 2 field goals that went up 13-10. And then the Vikings finally caught some momentum and went on to win 27-20. It was 24-24 on the last drive of the game. They make it down the field, and Greg Joseph kicks a 61-yard field goal. I think it was the first field goal he made longer than 50 yards since week 1 against the Packers. One of the field goals was like 53 yards he made. After that, he missed 6 straight 50-plus yard field goals. Decided not to make it until it was from 61 yards out. And Saquon Barkley just went off this game. 14 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. And then also were 8 catches for 49 yards. So it was 84. 84, 49, like 133 yards, I think, in total. Oh yeah, 133 yards in total yards. He just went off that game, 27-24. And then we go into the Packers game, which like the Vikings decided they didn't want to wear the cleats that were actually good for that field, which was just basically water. It was so slippery, you could tell, because Kirk Cousins started off like 1 for 9. He just could not complete a pass. I think he missed his first like 6 straight passes. Finally completed a pass, and the players didn't want to wear the plates that had like more studs in them to grip the ground better because they didn't look cool enough. And then and even the equipment manager recommended to them. And I saw on Purple for the Win, he talked about it, and he said like the Vikings equipment manager. I don't know how they ranked this, but he's like the best equipment manager in the NFL, and he recommended to them. He's like if that equipment manager, I say that equipment manager because he's basically a nobody as far as I know, recommends that you wear these other cleats, you should wear them because obviously the cleats they were wearing could not grip the field at all. And that's part of the reason why that Jair Alexander was able to lock down Justin Jefferson. Even though, yeah, it turns out it's pretty easy to lock down a player when you're on him every play, but also you have safety help, bracket coverage, and triple coverage every single play. Like you have Jair Alexander on the outside, and along with like Adrian Amos and whoever their other safety is. I think it was like Darnell Savage on the inside every play. To just bracket him. And even there's one pass. It was like I think it was like a comeback route to Jefferson, which he should have caught it. It was right into his hands, but it went through, and that should have been called for defensive pass interference on Joe Alexander. I fully believe it should have. I say I fully believe because obviously I have no good case for it. It should have been defensive pass interference. And then Joe Alexander decides to. I don't know how the NFL didn't call this taunting because if you look at a guy wrong, you'll get a taunting penalty. If you breathe on him, they'll give you a taunting penalty. Joe Alexander literally hits the gritty just on him, just flecting like, yeah, I interfered in your pass and I broke it up. I got away with the call. And later in the game, while Justin Jefferson was just getting couldn't get anything through, he banged his helmet against a ref, which buddy, settle down. I don't remember it. I want to be on Justin Jefferson's side, but that's like the Stephon Diggs crap that he did to get out of Minnesota. And somehow he didn't get thrown out of the game for that, but it was just a bad game. 41-17. How do you beat the Packers 23-7 in the first game of the season, and then the next time you play them, you lose 41-17? How do you turn that bad? Guys, I'm over an hour now. The last game of the season against the Bears, when all the backups were in, I just thought like I just would kind of hope we won the game. And now that I'm just realizing again that also against the Packers, the Vikings actually still had a chance because the Eagles lost again with Gardner Minshew to allow the Vikings a chance for the 1 seed. If they won, they would have stayed in the running for the 1 seed, but instead they just forgot to be motivated for the game. They just lost, and they went 12-4, which kind of sad that the Vikings lost 4 games. Like went 12-4 to start the season instead of 13-3 because Matt LaFleur went 13-3 in his first season as the Packers head coach. But whatever. Then the Bears game, Vikings won the game 29-13 just because the Nick Mullins surprise was actually really good this game for some reason. And then Nathan Peterman just didn't do much. There's only one play, I think it was a jet sweep to Velus Jones. Somehow he escaped like 5 guys and still made it for a touchdown. And then to finish off this part about the postseason, getting in the postseason against the Giants. The second game against them, obviously the Vikings I think were favored to win this game. And then because the Vikings had a horrible defense, which a lot of people were saying, like the Vikings cannot survive in the postseason with this bad of a defense. But like you can get off with a good offense like the Vikings had, but with this bad of a defense, this porous of a defense that only plays well at random times during the game when they absolutely have to, you can't survive in the postseason. Now it's thinking, well, we won 13 games with this defense. I think we'll survive. And it turns out a lot of those games were against teams that did make it to the playoffs. And when you make it to the playoffs, every team is good, so you actually have to be the best that you can be. And against the Giants, we're facing Daniel Jones with Saquon Barkley, Isaiah Hodgins, Sterling Shepard, what's his name, Darius Slayton, and like something Bellinger, Jake Bellinger, their tight end. And every single play, it seemed like either Saquon Barkley, whether it was a pass or run to him, he would gain a first down, or every play, Daniel Jones averaged like 18 yards per attempt, not even per completion, per attempt. He averaged 18 yards. Every play, he would just find Darius Slayton or Isaiah Hodgins wide open on the field, threw it to him. And this game just started off so bad. It was like, I think it was like 17-7 going into the second half, or 17-10, and obviously the thinking like the Vikings are a second half team. They're especially a fourth quarter team. They're one of the worst teams in the first 3 quarters of the game, but they were the best team of the NFL in the fourth quarter. The Vikings had like a point differential of like -87 or -90 in something like that in the first 3 quarters, but a point differential of +87 in the fourth quarter, just because the Vikings defense generally locks down the teams in the fourth quarter, and the offensive goes off. Except for the games when we just lost by a lot, those games don't count. Whatever. So the Vikings, it's a 1-score game. I think it was a 1-score game going to the second half. But of course the add disaster Donatello's defense continues to struggle in the second half against Daniel Jones, who went out for 24 for 35 yards and 301 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a bad game for the defense. They were relying everything. Even Saquon Barkley had 9 carries for 53 yards. Daniel Jones had 17 carries for 78 yards. And Saquon Barkley also had 2 touchdowns. Then Dalvin Cook just had 15 carries for 60 yards. Kirk Cousins, one carry, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. Isaiah Hodgins went off for 8 catches, 105 yards, and a touchdown. Darius Slayton, 4 for 88 and a touchdown. T.J. Hawkinson was the best receiver for the Vikings, 10 receptions for 129 yards. Adam Thielen was 3 for 50 yards. Justin Jefferson, 7 receptions for 47 yards, and I'm losing my ability to speak now. And then KJ Osborne, 2 receptions for 20 yards. And I'm remembering now, like, the first drive was actually really good for the Vikings because, as a lot of people mentioned, it was manufactured touches for Justin Jefferson, just getting the ball any way we could. He had like 4 receptions for 31 yards on the first drive, and that drive ended up being a touchdown. And then he just disappeared the rest of the game. And also, I'm checking the passing stats now. I remembered Kirk Cousins went 31 for 39 for 273 yards and 2 touchdowns. But then Justin Jefferson one for one for -2 yards because he had like a jet sweep running across the field, and then he threw it backwards to Kirk Cousins because that was like some great trickery. Get it to your best player and throw it to your slowest offensive player. Kirk Cousins, he was immediately stopped right there. And my face is getting sore from this. Stopped for no gain. -2 yards actually. And yeah, the Vikings defense just played horrible this game. The offense did okay, putting up 24 points. They only lost it because the Giants scored 31 points on our defense. It was just such a sad way to end the season. Also, the 4th and 8 when you were down 7 points. That play call was such a bad call. You had T.J. Hawkinson going on an out route, which I heard it was like he was hoping for more of like a subtle push off to get open, just not enough of a push off that he won't get called. It was nothing, and he was still blanketed when he was running out. Kirk Cousins throws it to him. He's 5 yards from the first down and immediately tackled. And then also you have Dalvin Cook on swing route to the left. You had a guy covering him, and then KJ Osborne on a post. Adam Thielen was running kind of a fade, and then Justin Jefferson was in triple coverage on a corner route. Every single route was just completely locked up. And I heard this pointed out. The Vikings had like a horrible play design for that. I mean, they obviously had a horrible play design. They had two routes, like T.J. Hawkinson and Dalvin Cook, running nowhere near the first down markers. And then K.J. Osborne, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen all going deep. You have to have someone just past the markers. Like maybe a hitch route. It was a 4th and 8, so a hitch route going 9 yards, going 10 yards. It's just across the first down. It's short enough. It's not a long play, so you don't have to like lob it up for a safety to intercept it. But it's also just short enough that it goes past the first down. And it was just a horrible play call to end the season for the Vikings. And to quickly mention something about the postseason, it was I liked watching the playoffs with at least the Chiefs ended up winning the Super Bowl. They were like my other favorite team in the playoffs. I don't know why I'm my favorite teams like the Vikings, the Broncos, and then also the Chiefs for some reason. I don't know. But let's get away from that quickly. And getting to the offseason, fortunately the Vikings they fired Ed Donatel, which they should have done like mid-season after the bye week, because they had like some time to elevate someone else to the defensive coordinator position, probably like Mike Pettin, who is not going to be a super conservative defensive coordinator like Ed Donatel was, be more aggressive instead. And then we were able to hire what's his face? Hire Brian Flores, fortunately, which good thing. The things about him, he actually has some good head coaching experience. He coached the Dolphins for 3 years. After the first year, which they were just a horrible. He had 2 straight winning seasons with them, and then he went off. And then they decided to fire him after that. And then he went on to get hired with the Steelers of it was like a assistant head coach. The funny thing is he's actually never been like an actual defensive coordinator. He's either been like a possessions positions coach, or a head coach or an assistant head coach with the Steelers. He's never actually been a defensive coordinator for some reason. And then let's see, we also a big talk about it right now is what are we gonna do with like the veterans? What are we gonna do with guys like Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, Danielle Hunter, Patrick Peterson, Jordan Hicks, Zarius Smith, a lot of those guys, and also other guys like Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen. What are we gonna do with them? Because they're all veterans with pretty expensive contracts. If we just held on to one veteran after this season, I'd hope it would be Harrison Smith. Just if anyone, I'd want to hold on to Harrison Smith. I think he brings the best value to our team, the best value to our offense. Like even without Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne has proven that he can be a wide receiver too. Even though my brother likes to deny it, he's probably gonna be watching this video and comment like, "I don't deny." Oh, you deny that KJ Osborne can be a good wide receiver too. And then we also have T.J. Hawkinson. So we'll have Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson, and KJ Osborne if we let Adam Thielen loose. Which reminds me, after the Vikings traded for T.J. Hawkinson, there's a lot of stuff like the 3 big receiving weapons for the Vikings: T.J. Hawkinson, Adam Thielen, and T.J. Hawkinson, which I was like kind of disrespecting KJ Osborne. He's probably better than Adam Thielen now anyway, which is kind of weird that you disrespect him like that. And then also on defense, like Danielle Hunter and Zarius Smith. I don't know what we're gonna do with them. Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks. For some reason, the 2 worst pass coverage linebackers in the league now are probably gonna leave in free agency. And also, Patrick Peterson, who was actually really good last year. He was like a top 5 or top 10 ranked cornerback by PFF, the nerdiest stat gurus in all of sports. And then we also Harrison Smith again, but on, I just really hope that we can figure out a way. I hope Brian Flores can really rejuvenate this defense from being the worst in the league. And I actually saw a post by Purple for the Win. It was just captioned this, and it was just Brian Flores sitting like at his first press conference, because I don't know, he just looked annoyed the whole press conference for some reason. Even though the way he talked, he didn't sound annoyed, but he looked very annoyed. And several people captioned, when you have to rejuvenate and rebuild the entire Minnesota Vikings defense, which was the worst in the league last year. We were the worst in, I think scoring for a while. I think we ended up being like the 31st ranked defense or something, but we were one of the worst defenses in the league. It's crazy how in 2020 we had a really bad defense. It was the first year we allowed we allowed just so many points in the last 2 minutes of games. I think it was actually the record most. I think we had the most points allowed within the last 2 minutes of 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 any half, like the first half or second half, first half end of the game, out of any team in NFL history. And then 2021 we re-broke that record. I think we went from the ranked 24 defense and to the 27, even with new guys like Dalvin Tomlinson and Patrick Peterson, and also with Daniel Hunter coming back, along with like Everson Griffin coming back, even though Everson Griffin wasn't that good his last few years. We also had DJ Wanham improving a lot, and we had the second most sacks of any defense in the league last year. But our defensive backs, ever since like 2017 and 18, when we had prime Xavier Rhodes and a solid Trey Waynes, has just been horrible. Our secondary's just never been that good for years. And the a big problem with our defense this year was just we never blitzed, and we always played shell coverage with all of our corners 8 yards off of the guy, 8 yards off the receiver, so they could just run slants all game long, and they would pick us apart every play and eventually win the game. And the moment we do decide to actually play against the slants, play press coverage, they just burn us up top. And just yeah, I think that might be the end of the video. This is going to be over an hour long, so I hope you enjoyed. If you're still watching, I love you, and that I'm not going to say that anymore. This is going to be my very first video ever since September 1st, and my first podcast ever since the middle of August or something. I just have not posted much because I've been really busy with schoolwork and sports. So, but I was glad I'm finally able to post another video. And as I mentioned before, I wanted to post a video about the Vikings. It was supposed to be like a really more of a deep dive, long form video. It was gonna be this fully scripted video. I wrote out a full script, but took a bunch of different screenshots to have in the video. It was like the 2022 Minnesota Vikings, a team of many, including me, and it was just a long script. This time unscripted. Got right now I'm almost an hour and 30 minutes into filming. I've been doing this really straight through. I've just not stopped filming. I'm almost at an hour and a half. But yeah, and then also I'm also changing the name of the podcast. I feel like I'm getting way too casual now. I'm changing the name of the podcast from the Vikings to Jesus Say the Purple. Instead of TV with John Graham, it's the Just Stop podcast, because I have 60 subscribers on this channel. I think I have 63 or 64. And so why should my podcast specifically be called The Vikings? There are other way bigger podcasts, like I mentioned this earlier, Purple for the Win, Score North, Purple Daily, podcasts like that, who have their names are all references to the Vikings, like Purple for the Win. The Vikings are known as the Purple. Score North, it's spelled like SK instead of SCORE. And I think score, there's an expression for something. And the North, because the Vikings are the Kings of the North, and yet we play in an indoor stadium, whatever. And also Purple Daily again. There's a news about the Vikings daily, and then there's me. I'm my podcast is called The Vikings. Not creative at all, because I'm not creative. And then it was actually recently when I was thinking of changing the name. of my podcast. I was trying to think of like different names, and I thought about I don't know if that said anything to do with the fact that the Queen of England had died a couple of months earlier, but I thought about Jesus Save the Purple. Jesus Save the Purple as like a play on words of God Save the Queen and the Adrian Peterson's nickname, one of Adrian Peterson's nickname, Purple Jesus, along with All Day and AP. And I like that idea, and I think JSTP, the Just Stop podcast, just sounds pretty clean. And actually I filmed the intro and this part of the video. I filmed the intro the day before I'm filming this now. It's a Saturday right now. I filmed the intro on Friday, and then I worked on making a completely new logo for it, and also a new intro, which I think the intro is pretty clean. Anyways, this is gonna be it. This is the Just Stop podcast. Never forget the Packers will always suck, and Skull Vikings. I almost forgot. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit that bell, and comment the videos you want to see. Now, Skull Vikings.